Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's CAEP office hour. This is Veronica Parker. We will get started in just a moment. I have muted everyone upon entry, just so we can make sure that we aren't picking up any additional background noise or conversations, etc. So you all are muted at this time. And when we start, I'll go over some housekeeping items that'll help us navigate through this office hour very smoothly. Thank you to all who have just joined us. The time is now about 12:55, 56. We will get started around 1 o'clock p.m. If you have just entered the room and your phone has been muted, please know that I am muting everyone upon entry so that we don't pick up on any additional conversations or feedback, and can ensure that everyone can hear everyone clearly as they are speaking during hour. But again, thank you all very much for joining us, and we do hope that everyone's doing well as we are navigating through this global pandemic.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Veronica, Holly. Just checking. Is anybody on?
Yes,
Yep.
can you hear me, Neil?
Oh,
Hello.
sorry, I might not have heard you.
Hi, Neil.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Wow.
Great. Okay, I think I'm all set to go. I'm going to mute myself. And are you able to mute everyone on the call?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll wait for you to give me the signal. We should have a large crowd today. So,
Yeah.
okay. I'll go back on mute.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, the time is now 1:00 p.m., so we will go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for the CAEP office hour. We hope that this time together will be useful for everyone as we are navigating through our new normal as a result of the global pandemic. This is Veronica Parker with CAEP TAP, and then Neil will also be on, who will be engaging in conversation and facilitating our discussion this afternoon. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. As you all may recognize, Zoom is a new platform for CAEP TAP, especially as it relates to large group meetings. So we want to make sure that this is a smooth process for everyone and that everyone has a good experience. So in order to facilitate that, I have created this kind of Zoom control slide just to discuss some of the controls in Zoom. We want this to be interactive and engaging for everyone. And as you all know, you do have the ability to speak. However, we do want to do so in an orderly fashion. So as I mentioned before, everyone who entered the room was muted, and we did this to ensure that we don't pick up on any additional conversations or feedback, etc. So everyone was muted. However, you do have the opportunity to unmute yourself. You do have the option to use your camera, whether or not you choose to, but you would do so by unchecking click on the start video icon. Now, everyone has the ability to speak, as I said, and how we're going to facilitate the discussion this afternoon. Instead of everyone speaking at one time, we're going to use the raise hand feature in Zoom, which is located at the bottom of the participant list. So I will be keeping track on whoever's raising their hand, and we'll call upon people when it comes to the discussion part of the session as smoothly as possible. So please use the raise hand feature, and then once you're called upon, unmute yourself, and then once you are finished speaking, go ahead and mute yourself. Ensure that there is only one person speaking at one time as much as possible. And then, of course, we do have a chat pod, so please be sure to use that to communicate with everyone. And as we are navigating through this pandemic, we are collecting a host of resources especially as it relates to distance learning. So if you have any resources that you would like to share everyone, you are able to put them in the chat. If there are any files that you would like to share with anyone, you are able to use the file feature down at the bottom to upload files, and those files will be shared with the entire group. And we are recording today's office hour, and it will be uploaded to the CAEP website, and we'll let everyone know exactly where the recording will be uploaded on the website. So if you have to leave for whatever reason, or if you would like to share today's discussion with another colleague who was unable to attend, you were able to do so by sharing the link. And like I said, you all will be sent the link by Monday morning. It takes a little while for Zoom to render the video to us, and then we have to upload it, etc. So those are all of the kind of housekeeping items that I would like to go over with everyone. Are there any questions at this time before we get started? Okay, not hearing any questions, so I will turn it over to Neil. Neil?
Okay, thanks, Veronica. So how we'll do it today, we'll cover an agenda topic, or I'll cover it, and then we'll see if there's any questions. Veronica will, you can either type it in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and talk live, you can do that as well. And then we'll move on to the next subject. So let's see. I'm kind of going to move the agenda items around a little bit. And I just wanted to say we've been getting a lot of questions about K-12 guidance and online learning. And so we haven't seen anything out from CDE yet. There are a lot of professional organizations like CASBO and other organizations that are, putting out information as far as what regs are still enforced and how districts are making decisions. I haven't seen anything. So if anybody has anything that they've seen from CDE, or if they want to share in the chat how the districts are making decisions, that would be good, because it seems like based on kind of the existing regs for K-12 districts, each local governing board is making those decisions on their programs. And I know the community college, the chancellor has suspended a lot of regulations and they're kind of moving forward, but I'm not getting that sense on the K-12 side just because there's so many different programs. So I didn't want that to swamp us today because I don't have any new information. I have reached out to Carolyn Zachary and CDE, and I didn't get a response yet. I reached out to OTAN to see if they've heard anything. So more to follow on that. Okay. So let's talk about student data reporting. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible. And I know Jade Wright and OTAN had a webinar maybe today, this morning, and they're going to have follow-up webinars. We're also going to have CASAS do a webinar next month on reporting measurable skill gains in a distance learning environment, because there's not just pre and post tests, there's other learning gains under the federal programs that you can report on. And so we'll have Jay Wright provide a webinar on, what's allowable, what you can do, what are some options. I know the feds haven't released guidance yet, so in about 3 weeks, maybe we will have a little more direction on that. So we've got that going on. The only thing about reporting student data, as far as flexibility, we do have Q3 coming up. Now, if we don't report that, that only hurts ourselves, is how we try to explain to the legislature how well we're doing. And then that kind of gets into the next topic of the May revise. So with all the, economic problems associated with COVID-19, I'm sure there'll be a May revise. Probably everything's on the table. We don't know right now if our COLA will be affected, but I would assume that they will be looking at that. So if you are planning to participate in Adult Ed Week virtually and reach out to officials, public officials, we do need to still show that we are, open and offering courses and doing a great job. So it's important to get that student data in. So I'll just open that up for questions to see if anybody does have any questions about reporting in TOPS Pro or reporting in MIS. So Jay said the webinar was yesterday, another is scheduled Tuesday at 1, a TE related webinar Thursday at 1, OTAN webinar on this topic Tuesday, April 7th at 1. So what we'll do, and Veronica and Holly, maybe you can help us, we'll put in the newsletter, or maybe we'll do a direct email to everyone about these upcoming webinars that CASAS and OTAN will be rolling out. I think that might be helpful for everyone if we can send that directly to each member district. And then, and Jay said, can you, okay. So there's the registration, but we'll also do a direct email because not everyone's on the call today. And then Alejandra says many of the K-12 schools are closed and will probably close through May or possibly through the year. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about the smaller districts. Maybe they don't have the ability or the resources. Some of the larger districts are trying to hang in there. And I know a lot of them are extending out through May. So we'll see what happens. I guess it's, week to week. And Randy asks, is there an OTAN listserv, CASAS listserv? I'll let TAP follow up on that. I know there is, but I'm not sure. We don't maintain that, but we could find out. I know the CASAS listserv does have the WIOA 2 members, but I think they use our listserv for CAEP. All right. And then let's see, have you heard any word about how to serve jails and account for that? The only option we might have right now is with packets since there is no internet access. So I think those are all good questions, and we'll probably follow up with CASAS to see what the suggestion is for places where it's difficult to do online learning like jails, and if packets are appropriate. But thank you for that question. Jody says biggest challenge for reporting is key staff not being permitted to work during the closure. So we understand that, and we'll be working through that. Each week we'll present different problems and difficulties, but understanding if we can get that data in, that would be important to show what's happening. And CASAS might have some suggestions on their webinars of how we're dealing with, reporting your DIRs in Q3 and things like that. So let's wait till the webinars that Jay mentioned, and we get more information on that. And then as far as, Netta says, as far as HiSET testing, all testing sites are closed. You can find a list of testing sites that are closed here. So, okay. So with that said, let's move on. Unfortunately, that's not great news, but we'll continue to monitoring the student data reporting. We have some webinars set up, OTAN, CASAS, so we will be getting more information out to you. And Karima says they've moved all their Saddleback College courses online, and they're allowed to work from home, including classified staff. So that's good news. So the May revise, just a heads up there, that ties into the CFAD. So we're still going ahead with the May 2nd CFAD date because that ties into how we allocate funds next year. So what we do is we take the information from the CFAD and we formulate an interagency agreement with CDE to transfer roughly $425 million to CDE so they can get that out to the K-12 fiscal agents and direct funded K-12 agencies. We've had problems the last 2 years getting that out. The good news is we got Board of Governors approval for the full $550 million that was in the governor's proposed budget. And we got that just last week. So we're good to go on approval. I'm working on creating the interagency agreement. The problem being is that may revise. So if the governor decides to cut the COLAs that he's given out to all the programs, then we have to do kind of a revised CFAD like we did last year. I still don't want to delay on getting the funds out to the K-12 fiscal agents and the K-12 county office direct funded agencies. So what I'll probably do is using last year's list of agencies and how much they received. I'll look at the CFAD that'll be turned in May 2nd to see if anybody was reduced, especially the direct funded ones. So maybe you decided to give your money to another member, or we've had a couple of cases where consortia have members that choose not to offer certain services and programs. And so they're foregoing the COLA and they're giving it to somebody else. So if it's not going to be the same amount as the prior year, I'll find that out through the CFAD process on May 2nd, and I'll be able to adjust that interagency agreement so it can keep going forward. And we're hoping that CDE can release those funds in August or September at the latest, because I know cash flow issues were a major concern this past year. So we don't want to have that happen. So to restate, we want you to get your CFAD in May 2nd. I'll be working with those direct funded consortia to see if there's any major changes from prior year, because everybody gets the same amount as the prior year, unless you invoke Ed Code 84914 and there is a change. So I need to find that out. And so I'm going to pause there to see if people have questions. And let me go back a little bit. So Kelly says, I have one suggestion that came up on a regional meeting about co-ops. Oh, can we do proctoring online? So we'll refer that to Jay. Most schools are trying to connect with students. At this point, attendance should be an issue. Yeah, we do have a lot of willing teachers. Let me just get to the CFAD questions, if there are any. Okay, here's a question. If a member wishes to give part of their funds to another member, will it require 100% member approval? So the way the Ed Code 84914 works, if a member no longer wishes to offer those programs that they said in the plan, in the annual plan, then the consortia can go ahead and cut that member. So there doesn't have to be a vote. You just invoke the Ed Code 84914, and that would be A. So, but if that member is saying they're going to offer all the programs and services, you can't vote to cut them. It has to be with cause, and you have to have evidence of that. And that would be pretty much the ineffective 84914C ineffective member. So Alejandro, I hope that answers your question. A member can give away part of their funds as part of no longer wishing to offer certain programs and services, and it can go to another member, and it doesn't require that vote. Let's see, and Janice, let's see if okay, a lot of questions coming in. If the information is the same as last year, then can we submit it as is? You still have to type in the numbers and this and that. We don't know if the COLA is going to be affected. We won't know that until mid-May. So rather than, delaying the CFAD and saying, well, we think the governor might cut us mid-May, it would be helpful if we had all the CFADs in by May 2nd. Then we could work with the direct funded agencies to revise those totals. Everybody would still have to submit a revised CFAD, but it would be more critical to work with the direct funded consortia to get that information. So in Janice's case, I think you have a fiscal agent. So we would just take the original number without the COLA, but you still have to submit that in order to move forward in NOVA. So just keep in mind, if you don't submit the CFAD and it's not certified, there's problems as moving forward into NOVA. So it's all logical and connected. So any effort underway to make a strong case for adult debt as part of the solution to the economic recovery? I would say that's really up to your professional organizations. I would strongly support that, but the state, that's up to our chancellor and the superintendent to make that case. We can't be lobbying on behalf of our agency, but you guys can take that cue from your professional organizations. Okay. And then Michelle said, we are not having a public meeting by May 2nd to approve CFAD. Is this going to be a problem? Yes, it will, because then you're not able to certify the CFAD because you still, according to the governor, even though he's suspended parts of the Brown Act, you still have to hold public meetings. You can hold them virtually, but you still have to hold public meetings. And the Ed Code is specific upon decision-making in a public setting. So if you don't do and submit a CFAD, then we'll just take your last year's total and plug them in and move forward. So it will cause some problems in your consortium if you're doing something different. The state has to move forward with this. And so you could be an ineffective member by not following our regs. So I would suggest relooking at that. We did discuss this at our last meeting, but not approved, no changes to the previous split. You still have to go in and certify it. And so that certify has to come from public meetings. So Michelle, I would see if you guys can do a virtual meeting and confirm that. So that's all. You can follow up with TAP to see if there are additional questions on that. But we can't, the Ed Code hasn't been suspended on that. We do have the option to teleconference, but we still have to have public meetings. Sherry says, we noted in the last 2 meetings regarding the CFAD was due in May. Do we need to have formal Zoom meetings in order for our member to vote on it? Or can they just approve it in NOVA? So as long as you have some kind of public meeting that documents the decision-making, Sherry, and the approval, I think, that would be up to your local legal counsel to see how you're doing the decision-making on funding. So I would check with them to see what's acceptable, because in our Ed Code, it is cited the decision-making has to be in a public setting. So wherever you do that public setting, as long as it abides by, the rules and it's virtual, according to the governor, you can use a virtual meeting. So I would check with local legal counsel on that. Kelly, are you anticipating that the COLA is likely to go away? No, I don't have a direct line to Governor Newsom, but as things get, week to week, keep getting worse, if they get better, I don't know. I mean, the revenue shortfall is pretty severe right now. And so I think you can go on the Department of Finance website. There's a letter that was sent out to all state agencies that is public. And they're looking at all funding and COLAs and everything. They haven't made a decision yet, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Would foregoing COLA be an acceptable choice under the ledge choosing not to provide a service? Yes, if a member chooses not to provide a service or foregoing the COLA, that would be an acceptable choice under 84914. Can a member share funds with another member to fully spend even though the original member is still offering an adult ed program? So I would advise, if you are going to move funds around for a one-time basis, I would do it as part of an allocation amendment and not part of the CFAD, unless that you want to make this permanent. But if you do need to move funds around to spend money down, and that's something I would caution, if you are carrying a lot of funds over and things get bad in your district, That funding could, I mean, we have some protection because it's unlike flexibility that this money goes through the consortium and it goes through an IA with CDE. So these are restricted funds, and we haven't seen any language that they would flex these funds. But I would be careful if you are carrying a lot of money over, have plans to spend that down or go to the consortia and see if you can do an allocation amendment, because I'm sure there's other members that need that funding. So Janet, I would say you can use that allocation amendment to move the money around. If you want to permanently rebench that allocation, then you could do it through the CFAD process, but you'd have to show cause, through 84914 A, B, or C. Tammy says we received funding in January for July through December, and we're waiting on January payment in a couple of weeks. Will the rest of the payments be delayed as well? I don't think so, Tammy. I think what I heard was the person that was releasing those funds left CDE, and they were scrambling to get someone to replace that person. And so that was the result of the delay. And so it should be back on track now. And so CDE is working to fix that. And hopefully it won't be any more issues with that as we go forward through the rest of the year. Emma, do you see any issues with fiscal agents receiving the remainder of the funds for the fiscal year? There are 4 more. Do you think there will be any delays? No, I don't think so. Like I said, that CDE issue was kind of a one-off related to personnel staffing. It wasn't related to any kind of state problem. So I think that will be corrected. Colleges haven't had any problems in delaying their funding out to their college fiscal agents and direct funded. So that money should flow for the next 4 installments pretty smooth. We are still having public meetings via Zoom. Send notification out to our mailing list, post on our website. We still have public comments portion. It's hard to facilitate, but not too bad. Thanks, Kristen. Brown Act does have rules for conference call public meetings that are easy to follow, preserve integrity, such as roll call and cast their votes. I also posted the governor's executive order relaxing Brown Act on the website. Thank you, Marianne. Janet, we are having our executive committee meetings remotely for voting, but how about work group meetings that are scheduled? Janet, I would check with your local legal counsel. We can't provide any guidance on public meetings. That's a legal issue interpretation of the Brown Act and the governor's executive order. So I would refer you back to your local legal counsel at the district. We're not going to be able to answer those type of questions. And Thatcher, has been any consideration to how to leverage AEP funds in a pandemic to support adult ed beyond what is already in place? Can we use funds to help individuals who've lost their employment, help them stay afloat? We haven't suspended any allowable activities. It is pretty flexible. We just can't provide a gift of public funds. We can't pay people's rents, that kind of thing. So there are other options that the governor is working on, but right now we haven't. So that would be flexing these funds. And I don't think we want to go and flex these funds. I think we want to protect these funds right now. But you do have some flexibility for supportive services as long as the person's enrolled in the program. Like you said, case by case. Let's see. Okay. I'll see if there's any other questions. So Thatcher says, could use to purchase Chromebooks, make a full transition to Zoom, students without computers. So Thatcher, equipment for students is okay as long as you have safeguards to protect that capital outlay. So I would check with the local district policy and procedure on loaning out supplies and equipment to students and how you can safeguard that. So it's really a district call on that. It is allowable activity to provide, supplies and tools to students, but check with your local district on what the procedure is for that, what the safeguards are. Some districts are a little bit more lenient than others. So it really is a local district call. Spend down dates remain the same for given the pandemic. So right now we're closing out 17-18 funds. Everybody said they had spent their 17-18 funds, so I'm not anticipating any funds being returned to the state. If you do have an issue with returning old funds, particularly 17-18, please email me directly. If you do have a problem spending these down and you have a remaining balance in NOVA. For 18-19, we're still looking at that funding ending 12/31/20. So that would be at the end of the year. We try to shoot for 2 years, but we're willing to give you an extra 6 months with the corrective action plan, and that can all be done in NOVA. So I think we'll revisit that if this continues, Shamila. We'll maybe in a few months, if things are really bad and schools continue to stay closed, maybe we'll relook at that. But that would take some kind of executive action on our part because we have 1 year to allocate and 3 years to spend. So, and that would, we might be able to extend it within that 3-year period because right now, December 31st is at the 2.5-year period. And so we might be able to work with some of the districts if this continues. But right now, there's no plans to extend the spending limits. But this is a golden opportunity for consortia to start seeing who really needs these funds. If someone has a large carryover or can't spend it, and you have a school that's staying open and serving students, and they need additional funds, that's where the allocation amendment can come in handy, and you can shift funds over to that school without penalizing your base. So like I said, the allocation amendment is a golden opportunity to move funds in the region without affecting your next year's allocation. And then Peggy had a comment about Jay. I'll let Jay answer that. And then Marianne responded to Thatcher. And then Jody, I sent your Perkins question to Carolyn Zachary and Michelle McIntosh. They should get back to you. Okay, and so a lot of good information here. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to, Veronica, if you can allow John Cordova onto the webinar. He wants to do a quick pitch on the K-12 medical course offering survey. If you can find him and unmute him, or maybe he can unmute himself, and I'll let John give a quick pitch on what he's working on with the healthcare initiative.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you just speak up a little bit louder, John.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. My name is John Cordova. I'm the statewide director for the Health Workforce Initiative, working with the California Community College System. And I've been given the task of trying to inventory across the state all the community college inventory for PPE, personal protective equipment, which is gloves, gowns, masks of that sort for use through the Office of Emergency Services. So we're in the midst of trying to collect that information throughout the community colleges, and we're extending the list on a spreadsheet that we have attached in the chat room for all the adult ed programs to populate that information for PPE. OES, I'm working with several different people from OES and Health and Human Services on how that that PPE will be deployed, how they will receive for the hospitals and for those mass units and hospitals that are starting to be coming online. In addition, I guess what I'll do is, Neil, I'll send you an email when I get some of the word. I was on a phone call with the California Labor Workforce Agency that the HHS will be hiring up to probably around 13,000 people, healthcare workers. So any of your health programs or your students that are ready for workforce that might be just deficit of clinical time, but they have done most of the work. They'll be having a portal for hiring students in those areas. So I'm not sure if you have those types of numbers of students that are ready to work or at ready to work, but that portal will be out and they're looking to hire those students into the workplace. So things are changing and evolving rapidly. I have to, if any of your programs actually have ventilators that are working ventilators, I'm not sure if you do. I'm reporting to the office today of emergency services, the number of actual ventilators we have in place for to be deployed to the hospitals in the area. The governor's requesting 10,000 and they're trying to use that number of what we have towards that 10,000. I see the question about the 13,000 people in California or nationwide. That's 13,000 people in California that they're hiring for the health workforce within the next 2 weeks. Any
And
questions?
John, quick question. The link that you provided in the chat, is that where Sharon would find the portal, or is that something that's soon to come out?
The portal for the hiring has not come out yet.
Okay.
The link is just to collect inventory for PPE, and I'll be supplying that information to OES by probably Monday with what information that we have.
Okay, and then, so John, I sent out an email maybe just before this call, and I already have 30 K-12 adult sites that are offering various medical course offerings. So and that was just, from a handful of regions. So I think we'll have a lot of information to complete on the inventory, and we'll continue working with you to populate that and get more information on inventory as well.
All right, thank you. I see a question about the K-12 districts already doing inventory. If that's the case and they have a connection with the OES, then you can continue that conversation. I'm just working with the community colleges and extending it to the adult ed based on a request that I had earlier today.
Okay, and there was a question, are we tracking even students who have not completed their clinical hours as, are they eligible for some of those jobs?
Yes, we're waiting for emergency orders to come out from the chancellor's office regarding workforce needs for health and nursing. And some of that will be using these hires and their hours worked towards their clinical hours towards the program. So we're really looking at not first semester students or just starting students. We're looking at students who are ready to get close to graduating or completing their programs and are just deficit in the last part of their clinical hours.
Okay, and then Peggy said, where can the students find the portal? And that's going to be released probably next week, like you said, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I can release that. I can send that to you, Neil. You can send it out to you.
Okay. So what we'll do, John, next week when we get additional information, we'll start targeting the districts that have said they have these kind of medical programs, and we'll start asking them to populate the inventory as well as get the word out to those students that might be eligible for those jobs. We'll also do, we have a mailer that goes out to all districts, just informing them what's happening, but we'll target the ones that people have identified as having such programs that can be assistance in this effort.
Correct.
Okay, and then Kristen says, will this include community health workers, even if they're not industry recognized certificates or certificated?
In my discussion with CHHS, the first line of workers that will be hired are going to be nursing, LVN, CNA, respiratory, and then they're looking at what the needs are for the other disciplines. So I cannot say yes, or I cannot say no to that. I'm not sure, but they're looking at the actual immediate need for, housing these hospitals and MASH units that are actually being set up.
Okay, and then a question was if they've already provided this type of information to their local hospital, should they do it again with our spreadsheet?
If you can populate the spreadsheet and put on there that you did donate that, OES is asking for that information as well. They want to know if you've already have donated or if you have anything else on stock to supply. They're appreciative both ways. They're just trying to look at the overall what's been put out there already. Part of that is because if hospitals are saying, I have not received anything, I don't have anything, and they know that they've already been provided some resources, how they're going to allocate it to those hospitals that actually have no resources. So they're trying to look at this as a statewide thing, not just as a individual regional thing. So populating that and just putting at the very end where there's comments that it was already donated to X or Y, Z location.
Okay, and then have you heard anything about and I don't know what type of exam this is, but an NCCT exam that requires a proctor. We have a group ready to test, but we're not sure about our options.
I'm not sure what NCCT is.
Okay, and then could you repeat the first line of folks that you're looking for? They caught CNAs, LVNs, but I'm sure there's a lot of other occupations you're looking for, right?
Okay, this is not me looking for it. This is the California Health and Human Services that's looking to hire these folks. So they will be employees of the state, and that is starting with registered nurses, licensed vocational nurses, respiratory therapists, and CNAs at this point. They're looking at what other workers will be needed.
Okay, great. All right, so look forward to that. For those of you who are on the call that haven't emailed me, that you know of members in your region that are offering medical courses, please let me know, and then we'll put this in action starting next week. Thank you so much for coming on, John.
Thank you very much. If you have any questions, just filter them through Neil and he can send them to me.
Okay, and John, NCCT is Allied Healthcare Certifications. I'm not too familiar with that though. So I don't know if you have any background on that.
Depending, are they for like the medical assistants and things like that, or?
I don't know. Maybe we'll follow up with you offline.
Okay, because there's a national organization that's not necessarily state approved. So
Okay.
depends on what organization you're actually
Yeah.
looking at.
Sounds a little technical, but appreciate you coming on today.
Right. Thank you very much, and stay safe, wash your hands, and stay healthy.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So Jay looks like he responded to the question about direction. And I'm trying to go back to some of the questions because we did get a lot of questions in the chat. So it's very difficult to follow. And so Kelly asked a broad question about what are people doing. We'll get down to that. So Janet says, fiscal allowable, can we purchase technology or technological equipment for students with CAEP funds? Like we told Thatcher, you got to check with your district, because if the students think that that's theirs, it's a gift of funds. So you'd have to have some kind of loaner process. And is it, equitable? Is there access to everyone? So those kind of issues your district has to look at. You have to have, follow your district policies and procedures on that. And so that would be probably something I would look at locally with your district and your accounting and business services offices. All right, so let's see if we can pick off some of the other questions. I know Bob had a question about, and this is maybe what Jay answered, do we have a sense about when CDE, CASAS, CAEP will give direction about attendance, record keeping now that schools are physically closed down and shifting to online delivery? So, Bob, that's a little difficult because it depends on your local board and your local governing board. If they're closing the school for whatever reason and they're closing the adult school, we can't really override that. That's a local board decision. We are encouraging through CAEP, at least, to provide online learning, distance learning, any of those online options. We've sent out through OTAN various software and vehicles you can use, but it's really that local district call that we're seeing. We haven't seen any guidance as far as relaxation of regulations. You know, the community colleges, the chancellor suspended some of the regulations to allow those distance learning options. So, and then Jay says that in the webinar, they might be covering a lot of this stuff. So like we said, we'll get that information out. TAP will look for archived versions. If Jay did a webinar this morning, like at 10 to cover some of these topics, we will get the archive version and send that out to everyone, if that helps. And okay, and Sarah said CJ's message. And we'll go over assessments. Netta said register here. Okay. Any progress on reducing high school graduation requirements for this year? That's something that I know everyone wants to hear. I know the locals are asking for that. I know there's seat time regulations on the community college side for people getting diplomas. And so if you need to, I would send that through TAP and get that over to CDE, or unless you want to directly email that to CDE. That is a great question. And then Rachel said, a question came into me via a member waiting to confirm that they could continue to pay their adult ed instructors during the stay-at-home order using CAEP funds. So that's a local call. I mean, it depends on, I think districts are having teachers and faculty working at this time in order to pay them. I don't know if districts are paying teachers to stay home and not do anything. And so that would be kind of a local district call and a bargaining unit and whatever is involved in that. So I can't really comment on a general statewide policy. But allowable use of funds would be, you know, something we look at. Is it reasonable? Is it necessary? Is it in the 7 program areas? Are we serving students over 18? Is it following the plan? Those kind of things. So I would check back with your district and see if those people are actually hired. I know some people were trying to pay other programs that are non-CAEP, and that's not allowed because it's not one of the 7 program areas. So I know we've provided guidance there. Okay, so we've run out of questions. So let's do some polling. So Veronica, were you able to figure out how to do the polling? We were going to do some yes/no questions, maybe one at a time.
I have to set them up now and launch them, so we can continue
Okay.
the discussion.
So while Veronica does that, and we have 15 minutes left, and I know people have been sharing a lot of information, I'll try to answer any additional questions. And Kristen says, thanks for everyone and everything you've been posting on the CAEP website. Please continue to post as much as possible. There's so much out there. It's helpful to have it all in one place. Yeah, I think we're trying to funnel everything on distance learning through OTAN. And then anything on COVID-19 for the Chancellor's Office is on their website. I know CCAE has their own COVID-19 website. That could be a good source for K-12. And so I'm not sure if CDE has their COVID website, but those are the ones that are out there that seem to be updating information. Sue says, problem with distance learning in K-12 is that it needs to be negotiated with the teachers union. Okay, great information to have. So, and Sue, is that, and that would be your local bargaining unit, or is that like CTA? Does that, statewide bargaining units or local? I'm not really familiar with how that works. Sue, isn't the same question for K-12 teachers too? Seems like to check with your local district policy, including labor discussions. Ryan, Neil, is there a deadline for CDE Adult Ed Emergency Situation Survey? Is there a deadline, and can they share that results? So Ryan, I think CDE is working to revamp that, to add additional questions. So they're going to come out with a round 2 survey, and they'll send it out to all CAEP members, not just WIOA 2. So it won't be just a WIOA survey, and it won't be a CDE survey. It'll be more of an adult ed survey. So I'm not sure of the timetable on that, but I'm assuming they will cut off the submission of the initial survey and send out the second survey as soon as they're ready. Thanks, Sue. So it is a local bargaining unit issue. Okay, Veronica, are we ready? So Kelly, the survey is the WIOA survey that CDE sent out. It's in the newsletter, from the special newsletter from last Monday. Okay, so here is the survey. Veronica, is there any instructions on how to do this?
No, just press yes or no.
Okay. All right. All right, so everybody should be doing that now and submitting, and we'll see what, because we have like 120 people. It could be a good sample size representing districts, and I'll try to answer questions and not disturb you as you read the survey. Ed, huge kudos to OTAN and the Digital Learning Academy. Thankfully, our CTE instructions were already on Moodle. Oh, good to hear, Ed. Thank you. Janet, any guidance on hiring personnel with CAEP funds now being postponed because of, is it related to having an impact on our current expenditure deadline? So like I said, we're still going with 12/31, 2020 to spend down the 18-19 funds. We'll kind of wait and see on that. We haven't given any extensions. All right. All right, is that enough time, Veronica? Is everybody?
People are still responding. We have
geez.
6% responding.
It's yes or no. I mean, what's the waffling, people? I'm kidding. Sorry. So Kelly says there's random funding. Oh, now that all the questions are coming. Oh, some people can't see the survey. Is that because of their phones, Veronica?
Yes, if you're not on a computer, then yeah, you will not be able to see the survey. However, we can send it out with the additional resources we will be providing.
So even we have some distance learning limitations, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it'll be a partial survey. Sorry, Emma. Unless, Emma, you want to just voice your feelings in the chat. So Kelly, on that one, it's part of the delivery of instruction, but I would leave it up to the district on that call. Jody says they're using Google Classroom. Lisa says, can you define online if you are teaching students who only have a cell phone and no emails, but they're using text-based lessons? Does that count? Lisa, I think that's a good OTAN question. And we'll be sending out the archive version, and so you can sign up for additional webinars. I know they're doing like 2 or 3 or more a week, and there's archive versions. So I can't really respond to that one, but we'll get information out to everyone. So Nancy says it'd be great to hear about best practices and alternative instruction delivery methods. Perhaps this can be done in regional webinars. Yeah, what we could do is we could try to do some additional follow-up. I think it's a little too soon to get some model practices. I think the critical part will be when schools reopen. Are the students showing up and who's successful at that? Are students progressing? Who can show progress? What methods are successful? And so Nancy will definitely do that. I think we'll need some time to set that up though. And maybe that's something OTAN can help us with. So survey, Peggy says the survey is the little button at the top. Thank you, Peggy. All right, so MR, if you see that button at the top. So there was a, Bronca says there was a COVID-19 page updated on the CDE website. Okay. Anybody else still working on it, Veronica?
It looks like it has slowed down. We have 76% response rate. I don't know if you're able to see the responses on your end.
Not yet.
Okay, so I'll just read them off. I'm still learning this. Sorry, you guys. But question number 1 was, does your school plan to offer online classes next month? Of the total responses, which was 98, 95% said yes and 5% said no. The second question, do you want to continue having these online office hours weekly? And we got 100% who said yes for that one. And the third question, if yes, is Friday at 1 o'clock a good time? And of the total number of responses, 92% said yes and 88% said no.
Okay. All right, so we'll continue doing this. We'll do them on Fridays. It sounds like some of the questions we're getting are CASAS related, CD related, and OTAN related that we're not able to answer. It doesn't seem like there's too many CAEP deliverables. Oh, I just want to remind you, so in NOVA, I know we have Q2 certification due next week. Because the way NOVA works is you can forego certifying Q2 all the way until Q3 is done. So technically, you have the luxury of waiting till the end of May to certify Q2 if you want to, because then the districts come in and enter in or submit Q3 starting June 1st. So the NOVA police will not be hunting you down if you don't certify Q2. What we do want to hear from is if you are closing out your 17-18 funds and have to return funds to the state, please send me an email as soon as possible. If you have spent all those funds, you can wait to do that certification as well towards the end of May. So we're trying to be flexible in NOVA. Whatever works for you. I know some people are still working to get Q1 certified. That will mess up Q2. So don't put it off, because then you'll have all your members confused and they'll be trying to enter in data, not knowing that someone back in Q1 hasn't even certified, and it'll stop everyone from entering anything. So be careful in NOVA, but you do have flexibility. Let me know if you can't close out 17-18 and want to return funds to the state. I need to know about that, because there are certain deadlines regarding returning funds to the general funds. Anything else I missed? Great questions about kind of regional meetings. What we'll do, we'll get together next Friday, and maybe we'll bring some experts in. We'll also see if we can work with OTAN to possibly set up some regional network meetings. I know CASAS wanted to do that. Some virtual regional network meetings. So maybe I'll talk to CASAS and OTAN to see if we can start having some super regional, maybe like all of Orange County or all of San Diego or all of Inland Empire or all of LA Basin or Central Valley, Central Coast, something like that, just to get people to start sharing ideas, because they're probably serving similar student populations in similar regions, and they might want to hear. And then any other great ideas we can bubble up maybe to our weekly Zoom chats here and share that out. So we'll try to get that together. figure out open lines of communication, a lot of sharing, try to be flexible. We know this is crazy, and so we don't want to be too draconian. I know the CFAD could be a struggle for some of you, but we do need that information because we want you to get your money in the fall timely, because we know there might be a crunch in the fall. So we don't want money to be delayed to you. We want things to roll out successfully in the fall and not have to worry about cash flow. So with that, I'll pause and see if there's any other questions. Thanks for response to this. It's a huge question about how to shift correctly, reach out, connect to students, deliver what our students need and want, not just continued education. Sharing what is productive and what other programs are doing successfully will be helpful. But you know that. Well, it's always nice to hear that. Thanks, Bob. Does anybody have examples of surveys that they've done with students? Okay, so, and there's a lot of other comments here. We don't have enough time, but we'll schedule another meeting next Friday. And Veronica, how difficult would it be to kind of powwow with maybe CASAS and OTAN to see if we can start setting up regional sharing meetings as far as, you know, recording student data and offering online instruction? What do you think?
I will begin coordinating with them this afternoon.
Okay, great, great. So Veronica will let us know. Maybe we'll have something to share, or if it's that easy, we might already be setting these up and you'll get an invitation to participate. So look for that, and appreciate everyone coming on the call today, being very patient. We'll try to be patient at the state level. And it's most critical serving our students. I know teachers and faculty are so doing extraordinary work of trying to set up their distance learning, reaching out to their students. They're such an advocate for our program. So we look forward to the 95% that are going to stay open to see what kind of amazing things are going to be happening and how we can tell people about, you know, how we came through in this crisis for our students. So looking forward to sharing those success stories. And Veronica, I'll let you close out if there's anything else you want to share.
I typed in the chat that we will be sending an email with a link for next week's online office hour, as well as links and resources to some things that have been done by CASAS and OTAN. So we'll get all that information out, as well as a link to today's office hours, so that you all will have that information. And if you have any questions regarding distance learning or anything else, please be sure to contact TAP, and we will work with OTAN to get you the information that you are seeking. And then also we'll have an evaluation that will be available to you all, so we can know what you're looking for in terms of this office hour, and we can continue to plan and get everyone what they need.
Veronica, is it possible if we could, I don't know if OTAN is already archiving their webinars that people have been talking about, or the one that Jay Wright was on with CASAS and OTAN.
Yeah.
Somehow
Yes,
if we could share that easily to all the people that were on here, and then also maybe put it in the newsletter or somehow get that out, because it sounds like that's valuable information to share.
Right, and I have already spoken with OTAN. Their videos are not ready as of yet, but once they do become available, they will share them with me and I'll send them out to everyone.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's all I have for now. See you all next week.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.